Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this month's edition of the AMAC Legends and Leapers program. We've just opened the virtual doors and are allowing our attendees in, and the program will begin shortly. Once again, thank you for joining us for this month's edition of the AMAC Legends and Leapers program. To kick things off this afternoon, we're turning things over to Anthony Barnes, AMAC's Chief Operating Officer. Anthony?
Hey everyone, and welcome to AMAC's Legends and Leapers program. Our monthly conversation has grown month after month since we first started, and we're very grateful for every speaker who has been willing to open up and have candid conversations with our group. This monthly conversation between industry legends and emerging leaders reveals our commonalities and our differences and perspectives around this on the industry. Today's a special day because we are having a special emphasis, and we're rounding out our special emphasis on Latinx Heritage and Hispanic Heritage Month with two dynamic panelists who we'll introduce in just a moment. But we have spent this past month paying tribute on our social media platforms. So if you are not following us on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, please join us there. Engage with us there, and we'd love to engage with you as well. Just a little real quick, I will go ahead and introduce our panelists for today and our moderator. Joining us today, we have Jose Cuevas, who is vice chair, who also serves as vice chair of the AMAC Emerging Leaders Committee and serves as a manager of commercial operations at LaGuardia, Gateway Partners, and Vantage Airport Group. Jose is a manager for commercial operations and the developer and operator at LaGuardia Airport Terminal B, which is the largest public-private partnership in history of aviation. Jose oversees the day-to-day operation of all the shops and restaurants at the terminal, as well as he handles a very strategic commercial development related efforts. Jose has a background in retail operations, as well as logistics in major transportation and retail hubs, such as JFK Airport, 34th Street, Hurd Square, and others. Jose has a master's in urban affairs and a bachelor's in aviation management. So we're looking forward to hearing from Jose. And then our second panelist, no stranger to AMAC, is Mario Trevino. And Mario Trevino currently serves as a member. He's a member on the AMAC PAC board of directors, and he is also the president of Innovative Strategies. Innovative Strategies is a San Antonio, Texas-based management consulting firm and that was established in 2001 with satellite offices in Fort Worth, Texas. And they specialize in business diversity, inclusion services, and economic related studies, analysis, and initiatives such as with availability, disparity studies, and empowerment and enterprise zone programs. Mario Trevino is recognized as a local small minority and disadvantaged business development expert, having testified as a subject matter expert in a court of law, and he has served as a public sector and federal executive and consultant to many public and private organizations, providing technical expertise in minority, women businesses, hub, DBE, et cetera, policy and program development, implementation, monitoring, and compliance processes, procedures, and programs. Since its inception, Innovative Strategies has been engaged in providing professional consulting services, specializing in small, local, minority, women-owned, disadvantaged business and economic development field, primarily in the public sector, arena. And Mr. Trevino has a wealth of experience in this industry, and I will actually allow him to talk a little bit more as we go further into the session, talk a little bit more about his background. But I did want to mention that Mr. Trevino has also served and directed various boards and commissions, and is an early member of the AMAC board, previously leading the board, the premier, which is a premier airport advocacy organization for minority and women-owned businesses. So Mr. Trevino has been very involved throughout the industry, and also in AMAC, and brings a wealth of knowledge. And we are looking forward to hearing more from Mario and Jose. As well, I will now turn the program over to our moderator, Mr. Ricky Smith, who serves as our AMAC board chair. So I'll turn it over to Ricky now. Ricky?
Thank you so much, Anthony, for your opening remarks and your introductions. That was a mouthful. That's because we have two amazing panelists with us today. Jose, I've had the great pleasure of working with him with emerging leaders, and his energy, his intelligence, his enthusiasm, his willingness to challenge the convention is enlightening. And so I really appreciate all that you're doing, Jose. Unfortunately or fortunately, you're sharing the screen with the Mario Trevino. We've had a number of icons on Legends and Leapers. Mario is truly one of those icons, and I remember as a younger professional when I was with AMAC, he was certainly one of the names, one of the leaders that I looked up to, and so thank you, Mario, for your leadership in the industry, for AMAC, and all that you've inspired both in the Hispanic and Latinx community, as well as the general community. So it's a pleasure to have both you and Jose on. So you may notice that that with some support from Anthony, I am soloing today. You've heard the back and forth between Lauryn and I about her wanting to have too much airtime, and so we were able to resolve that. And so we completed the contract negotiations, and so we agreed that Lauryn wasn't adding value to the show, and so she will not be joining us today. And if you believe that, then I have something else to sell you. The real news is that Lauryn, if Lauryn had her way, she would be here. But Lauryn is not here for very good reason. We had one of our practice calls yesterday, and we were able to get Lauryn on the screen, and London Ashley Reed took over the meeting. The reason Lauryn is not here is because she and her amazing husband, Dr. Drew Reed, gave birth to London Ashley Reed on the 20th of October. And so she is now spending time with baby London. London was born at 7:40 in the morning on the 20th at 8 pounds and 2 ounces, 21 inches. Beautiful little girl. And I think Mario and Jose would agree that she was just captivating yesterday when she came onto the screen. And so she is officially a week old now, and we wish Lauryn and Drew very well and congratulations. And we welcome baby London to the AMAC family. And that is the real reason why Lauryn is not here, because as you know, she's the one who really carries this show, and I love having her as the co-pilot. So with that being said, why don't I try to ask some questions that might provoke you all to, both you, Jose, and Mario, to provide some inspiring comments, some insightful comments, some educational comments. So I'll start out with this. Jose, you've had the honor of hearing Mario's background read by Anthony, and Mario, you the same for Jose. Can both of you provide some insight as to what the other person's accomplishments or potential, what does that mean to you?
I think hearing Mario's like journey, his career, for me is I get the energy and the vibe of, oh my God, it's the power of yes, I can. I've seen that others have done it. I see the fact that there are others that not just have done it, but that are willing to help, that have done more than just one item in the aviation world, but they have done so many things that can help thrive an organization. So just hearing his biography, his the accomplishments that he has had, not just that, but also the fact that he has been very involved with the community, gives me like hope, more hope than the one that I have for what's to come for the next generation that's going to take over the industry.
All right.
Ricky, good afternoon, and thank you for having me on this program. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm certainly appreciative of my colleague Jose that's on the program, certainly what AMAC is doing and what AMAC is trying to do. In response to your question, what I see and what it really makes me happy to see that there's a young group of emerging leaders that really get it. Too often, I don't see people that really understand and know the complexity and the difficulty that it is to run these kind of minority women business programs or disadvantaged programs. It is challenging, and we're even more in a more challenging situation than what we were before. I think before it was very black and white. Now it's more gray and very much where anything leads you into the courthouse. So it excites me, and I see the passion, the drive, the excitement, and the desire to help and make a difference in Jose. And I really appreciate that. And I think our community is better for leaders like Jose that really decide that I'm going to jump in there and I'm going to try to make a difference. Too often I see people jump in there. They don't want to make a difference. They see it as a job. They see it as just something that gives me a paycheck. And I don't see that in Jose. I've known of him. I've met with him in one of the conferences. He was very insightful, very helpful, and very much caring, and very much wants to make a difference in this industry.
All right. So you both made reference to the community. So as why is it, from your perspective, why is it so important that that this country, steps back and celebrates the accomplishments, or I guess deepens its appreciation for the accomplishments of the Hispanic Latinx community?
So
I think, Ricky, I had a chance to come to the United States from the Dominican Republic, actually, at the age of 17. I came to the country knowing few words in English. And I only knew how to say thank you and a couple of other words I don't remember exactly. And from the first moment that I arrived, I saw the kind of, and I came to New York, and I've been living in New York, for the last, number of years. And it was kind of, what I realized was that the US was, the land of opportunity, of, hey, let's go, let's make it happen, go, go, go. And something that I think that the country needs to do, not just with the Hispanic community, but also with the different minority groups, women and so forth, is that we need to take a step back. And we kind of did that with COVID. Everything came to a stop. And at times, what I realized is that we put too much, demands on ourselves. And at times, we set these very, very, very high expectations. And at times we think that we get involved in those, in a mode of, hey, I'm too busy. I'm trying to accomplish this. I'm trying to accomplish that. And we don't keep in mind that many times the basics is what matters. And we don't keep in mind that the basics that many groups are doing are the basics that are setting the foundation for a better country.
Ricky, the way I would answer your question is, one, all groups are valued. In fact, when I look at this country, we are a country of immigrants. So all groups are really valued and present and bring something to the table that's very important. It takes all of us to be able to make this country successful. When we look at a particular group like the Hispanic group, aside from speaking about demographics and the number and that we're probably going to be the largest minority group, I still see it that we should value, we should celebrate, and we should always try to have inclusion by all parts and not just one part or leave the other parts behind. So I think it's that example that I've seen when I do discussions on diversity. You take a pencil, you can break it, but you take many pencils, several pencils, you put them together and they're very strong. And it's the same thing when you look at us. Yes, we celebrate various cultures, various groups that we have in the United States. And certainly the Hispanic group is one of them that has been very contributing since the founding of our country. I tell people, you know, it's a funny thing that you hear sometimes people speak about going back to your country or whatever, but in this country, in Texas, where I'm at, the Southwest, a lot of Hispanics, a lot of Mexicans were here even before it was the United States. So it's not a matter of going back. This was our home and it's always been our home.
That's right.
And I just want to add to the comment that Michael just made is the fact that the Latin community is not just one big community. It's a very, very diverse community. You got not just, you know, Mexico, Central America, and all the countries that are there, but also the Caribbean, with the Spanish Caribbean, South America, and even within South America, there is just so many different components. So in terms of cultural awareness, I think that's something that the country could do better to better understand how diverse the Latin community is, and how to better service that consumer that it's willing to spend, is willing to not just spend, or even in some instances invest. So I think that there could be great opportunity in that.
Jose, you raised a very interesting point and a very great point, Ricky, that we should share with our audience. That when you look at the Hispanic community, of the Latinx community, it's not a cohesive group. It's multiple groups, very different and diverse in music, food, culture, even dress to some extent. You know, people are amazed that when I'm in my hometown, San Antonio, I can, just by sound and by sight, I can tell somebody that's a Mexican American born in the US, but with Mexican roots, or somebody that is from Mexico itself. And same thing that when we go some other places, you can tell a Cuban different from a Puerto Rican, from a Mexican, so on and so forth. So it's not one size fits all. It's very distinct, very different when you look at that. And that affects us from a global perspective as well as individual perspectives.
Why is it important that we understand that, right? Because there's a segment of the population that does not recognize or understand the diversity within your community, right? They want to lump, you know, you all into one monolithic group.
Well, let me respond that from the business side of my mind. It boils down to customer service. You want to be able to provide an exceptional customer service and understand your customer to be able to provide that exceptional service and be able. And one of the things, a simple axiom that I've always seen is customer service equals sales and sales equals revenue. So it's very important to understand that element if you are in business. And even if you're not in business, if you're dealing with people, you want to understand people, be sensitive and be receptive to what they need and what they want. And that goes with that, understanding who is across from you, who are you dealing with, who are you speaking with.
And I just want to add to that, and I go back to the term of cultural awareness, is that the Latin community is very attached to the roots, very, very much. And the challenges that some groups face might not be the same ones as that the other ones face. And based on that, you're gonna see triggers on their behaviors, on how they consume, how they voice out their opinion, and so forth.
So we talk about the broader community, the broader Hispanic Latinx community. The Airport Minority Advisory Council consists of a broader community. Minority, right, is not a monolithic group. People from the outside looking in have a tendency to associate minority with African American, right? But Mario, you were here at the beginning, right? So that certainly didn't affect your decision to be active in this AMAC space. And Jose, you're a more recent entrant, and it didn't impact your decision to be involved in this community. Why, given how African-American focused AMAC can be or be perceived, why did you find it important that you trailblaze your participation into this organization?
Let me start first, Jose, if I may. Ricky, that's a very interesting perspective that you raised, and one that we wrestle with as an organization when we were founding AMAC. I remember that we were looking as to how do we reach out and include, because our name is Airport Minority Advisory Council, not Airport African American or Hispanic or anything Advisory Council. So we wanted to be broad and inclusive, and we wanted to be broad and inclusive because we understood the value of bringing multiple groups into this organization that would make the organization stronger than being perceived and looked at as a one interest group entity. So that was the reason why when we first started, we wanted to have a very diverse and inclusive board of directors. We wanted to have leadership that reflected that. And that was one of the reasons that I became the second chairman of AMAC, to be able to provide that vision, that view, and hopefully lead to more broader inclusivity of all the different groups and folks that we have out there. I have always embraced it, not so much because of AMAC and it's a social organization or an organization that I want to participate socially. I see it as a organization that's very much needed and required for us to be able to advance the objectives and goals of what we want to achieve as minority business owners in the airport industry, both in employment and in contracting. And when I first started, and I go back many years, I started with DFW International Airport in 1988, 89. I remember going to conferences that were 99% white male owned. There was only like one African-American, maybe two African-American aviation directors in this country. Vernell Stearns, Ricky, I think you remember Vernell Stearns became the CEO of DFW Airport. He and I used to go to his meetings and kind of look out there and say, there's something's wrong with this picture, that there's not a lot of people like you and I, at this meeting. But I saw the rationale and the reason that we needed from a regulatory standpoint, from a promotional standpoint, from an ability to articulate and advance all the business elements that we needed an organization for, that we couldn't do it individually, or we couldn't do it as business owners for the reasons that you would be blackball, cut out, or do something else like that. So there was a very valid reason for this organization. It was a very valid reason why we wanted to be minority oriented in growth and approach. And we see that to this day. And I get that question a lot, from other Hispanics that are in the aviation, in the airport community. A lot of times they say, well, it's a Black organization, why do you participate? And I say, well, one, it's not a Black organization, you don't understand what it is. Two, it's very much needed. We need that an organization like that. And three, whatever benefits are there, the saying that you get what you put in is so true. If we stay out of it and we don't support it and we don't have it, then we don't get the benefit of the information of the promotion by the organization and what the organization brings. So when I look at it, I don't look at it as is an organization, Black, Hispanic, what can this organization help me from a professional standpoint, from a organizational standpoint, and what is it trying to do to help what I'm in, and is very much needed and has done very much a lot of very good work in this industry.
It's interesting, Mary, that you bring that up, and because I have been asked that question as well. Why AMAC? my career in aviation started back in 2010. And before starting my full-blown career, when I was in college, I had the opportunity to go to different conferences that were not related to AMAC. And I'm talking more kind of the AAA conferences and so forth. And those are amazing organizations, great organization. But I think there are two things that now that I'm more involved with AMAC, I got to see. That is the answer that I give to those colleagues of mine and folks and friends in the industry that ask me why AMAC. One of them is back at the Houston conference a couple of years ago. That was my first AMAC conference. First thing was open arms. The team, they saw me, they embraced me. There was not, okay, I'm a CEO, I'm this, I'm that. You are a team member now. Let me walk you through it. Let me introduce you to people. And I will never forget in that conference, the amount of people that I met, the amount of connections that I made, and the friends as well, the friendships that were created. That's one. And two is the willingness to listen. Listen to the issues that are happening, and not just to listen, but to take action as well. I think those are the things that many folks may not know, but I use them as the uniqueness that the AMAC has created for all of us.
I mean, amazing insight from both of you. So if we had anybody else on this panel and we asked the question, what is it that AMAC could do better to protect your interests or advocate on behalf of your interests? I mean, they would have a list, right? Because AMAC is a work in progress.
Correct.
And that list will be reflective of their perspective, their experience, which has a whole bunch of stuff fed into that. So I'm going to ask you the same question. I mean, so both of you have different times of experience with AMAC, but you know, what is it that AMAC could do better? When I say AMAC, I'm not talking about just the organization. I'm talking about the AMAC family. What is it that AMAC, the community, could do better to support your interests, your desires, your needs?
I think as an emerging leader, I think a couple of things. And one of them goes back to what I just mentioned about the open arms and the willingness to listen, is to better communicate the amazing things that are being done. Many times, some opinions are created out there because folks don't know what's being done by the organization. You guys are doing wonderful things. I've never seen an organization that embraces emerging leaders like AMAC. And I think that's one thing that I think could be done better. You guys are already getting there, but that's something that I think collectively we could do much better. And that's one of the things that I myself have as a goal. I wouldn't say that I want to be the spokesperson in the young Latin community for AMAC, but it's just, you know, whenever I see one of my friends in aviation, you know, just letting them know, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the difference that we're making today. I think that that's one of the things. And the other part of it is working more on, and I keep on referencing the same concept, the cultural intelligence part of things, because even from a business world, we are a very diverse community. And I truly feel that we can capitalize as a minority airport community. We can capitalize way more on the Latin community, keep them what they want, so they can consume more. And there's a win-win. Win with them, the consumers get what they want, and the airports, the businesses that are part of the airport and the aviation world also succeed as well.
Ricky, to answer your question, you know, I gave it thought, and three things came to mind very quickly, three broad things. One, obviously, as an organization, for our benefit, it would really be great for us to have a more effective way of trying to reach and bring in other groups beyond the African-American group. And I think that we're well on our way trying to do that. I've seen a lot more. I think we've seen a lot more Hispanics, a lot more other than African-Americans, but obviously the African-American presence is pretty big. And it did start as an African-American idea from with Clark Sharp and some other people at the FAA. So I can see that, but certainly trying to broaden what we do and how we try to reach folks is very important. Secondly, I'm involved in the AMAC PAC. And I think that's very important that we've actually missed that element for many, many years of how can we be more effective in trying to affect the regulations that apply to us and be more supportive of what we're trying to do. So it's very important that we try to look at and how do we strengthen that and bring in more perspective, more understanding, and more value as to what it is, because it all goes back to the regulation as to whether we have a program or not. And it's been threatened a couple of times and we've been able to persevere, but certainly that element, and now we're having more support. I think we have the largest numbers of maybe people of color that are in Congress that are really sensitive and can really help us to where we want to go, the objectives that we want to achieve. Thirdly, I think it's been lacking for too long that we need an organization. AMAC should really look at how do we develop programs and activities that will increase the capability and capacity of not only DBEs, but ACDBEs out there. You know, we still wrestle, like I said, I started back in 1988, and we're still wrestling with the issues of funding, you know, borrowing money, being able to capitalize the kind of programs we have. We're still wrestling with insurance requirements that we can't meet. We're still wrestling with bonding requirements. We're still wrestling with being able to market and being able to participate in contracts. I think that we need somebody that can really develop programs that will start from an organizational perspective, addressing some of the more long-term, very difficult issues that we have in our industry of how do we solve this, working with other organizations. I see individual airports try to do that, and some have met with some reasonable success. I know I did when I was at DFW International Airport, but on a global perspective, on a larger perspective, I just don't see us making a lot of progress. And I think that AMAC would be the kind of organization that might be able to really tackle insurance, bonding, financing, and those kind of issues to see what can be put out there for the benefit of the AMAC members.
That's an interesting comment about the ACDB part of the funding, Mario, because I've had the chance to speak with many folks, many entrepreneurs, not just in New York, but throughout the country. And those folks that are minorities as well, they want to be in airports. They are succeeding out there already. They want to be in airports, but they find it very struggling, not just the financing part of things, but just how overwhelming it could be for them to do things, even simple things as reporting, day-to-day operations and things of that nature. So is it a question of coming up with some sort of AMAC, ACDB Institute for guidance, mentorship purposes? That could be one solution. But to your point about the financing part of things and just the onboarding of somebody that wants to enter to this arena, I think there could be great potential there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to shift a little, I'm hearing a theme here that I will come back to later on, closer to the end of the program. I'm going to switch a little bit. So again, both of you have distinctly, different experiences based primarily on time around. Can you talk a little bit about some of the characteristics that that you've had to lean on to be successful to this point? And then my next question is going to be, what's a characteristic or two that you feel if you had, you would have accomplished more than you have accomplished so far?
I'll be happy to start, Jose. Go
ahead.
Well, the first characteristic to answer your question, Ricky, would be perseverance. In this job, if you don't have that stick-to-itness that I want to solve this, I want to make a difference, I want to stay with this thing, you won't be successful. And I've been able, I've had a lot of employees that have worked with me in trying to address this whole minority women business area. And I can literally, within a matter of weeks, when I selected somebody, I knew whether it was going to work out or not, because it's very vague. It's not crystal clear. It's not science that we're dealing with. It's not a mathematical thing, but something that's very difficult to be able to understand and apply. When you're talking about terms that are very, very fluid, good faith. What is good faith? I mean, it might be different for each one of us. But what's difficult is that I used to explain it to my employees this way. You're always in a no-win situation. Typically, what I used to see was my colleagues that I worked with didn't like what I represented and what I stood for and what I was trying to advocate, because it got in the way with them. We don't need that. We should be doing that. It's reverse discrimination. It doesn't work that way, whatever, So you get it from your own folks. Then you get it from the contractors out there. I know that the contracting people, I can't remember that organization that was suing around everybody, going around suing them for the programs that they have and that they have implemented. So you get it from the community itself that doesn't want these kind of programs. And then thirdly, you get it from your own people that you're trying to advocate for. I used to say that I would work a construction bid and I would get a lot of interest. I would work with people, connecting them with people could help them technically and everything else like that. And then I would have like 4 or 5 guys that really were interested, put a bid. Only one won. One guy was a winner. That guy said, "You walk on water, you're the greatest thing. I'm glad you're there." The 4 other guys said, "I knew you couldn't do anything. I knew you couldn't help. You helped nobody," this kind of stuff like that. So you're in a very difficult situation. Your own folks kind of don't like you, don't resent you. And I'll share a very personal story. When I was at DFW Airport, when I created the first minority women business program for DFW Airport, I presented it to the senior staff. And when I finished presenting it, everybody was kind of quiet. I went through this whole program. It had goals, it had requirements, it had legal clauses. And our senior director, who would be the one of the deputy directors, said, "Mario," he said in front of everybody, "Mario, you're not going to be very well liked at this airport." And everybody kind of laughed. And I took it personal. I didn't say anything, that got me upset, but in front of everybody, I said, first of all, they didn't hire me to win a beauty contest. I said, secondly, it's not my program, it's the airport's program. It belongs to all of us in this room. Thirdly, I said, I've got a very short time frame here, and I like some of you, and I don't like some of you. I said, but the attitude I leave at the door. They hire me to do a job just like your job, and I have a responsibility to do that job, and I'm going to do that job as best as I can. And just like I respect what you do and your programs, I expect all of you to respect what I do. And this program that belongs to the airport is the airport board's program, not my program. And this guy said, "Oh, well, don't get upset." And I said, "I'm not getting upset. I'm just telling you, when you tell me that I'm not going to be liked here," I said, "I'm just telling you back that, yeah, I know I may not be liked, but it's not a matter of whether we like it or not, whether we do the job that we're hired to do." And that's very much that perseverance of staying with it and wanting to make a difference. And that's what I don't see a lot of times. And I'll answer the second question once after Jose answers the first question.
That's why you are the Mario Trevino. That's exactly why. All right.
I don't even know if my answer to that's going to provoke wow factor now. So, mine is kind of simple, and it's many times we live in a very competitive environment. And many times we're hesitant to say, "I don't know, I need help." And I think that's something that has allowed me to succeed, actually. I actually have a story when during my retail days at Macy's Herald Square, I will never forget. We had a Black Friday, and we opened the store, we were ready to go. We had tremendous goals to accomplish that day. The team was like energized. People were happy. The brands were engaged. And something happened that I'm sure you guys see on the Macy's booklets where they have like the one-day sale items and the doorbusters and so forth. We got confirmation on one item, and last minute, that whole merchandise that was the key item of the day disappeared, nowhere to be found. And my department was supposed to be the department that needed to shine, that needed to do the best. And me sacrificing my reputation by saying, I don't know, what's the risk? Or hey, I'm failing, something happened. And I didn't let it get to that point where the doors were open, the customers came in, and they didn't find what they were looking for. So I went up and I spoke up with the VP back then of operations, explained the situation, and I will never forget that person saying, "I got you. Let's figure it out." We figured it out. We found the items, and that person, a higher up in the organization, came down to the floor to help me carry those items. And we made sales. So we're the best of the store. So in terms of the sales goals, and it goes back to the fact that many times we just don't feel comfortable saying, I need help, can somebody help me here? It's okay to say, hey, I need help, I could do better, can you please help me? And at the end of the day, most of us, we love to help. Human beings love to help. And I haven't seen one person out there that has never said to myself, no, I can't. If they say no, they say, okay, no, I can now, I could help you later on. But we can never underestimate the power of asking for help.
That's true.
So both of you are leaders in your own right? And so I'm going to ask you the question, why would anyone follow you? And I'm going to emphasize the word follow you. Why would anybody follow you, Jose? Mario, why would anybody want to follow you? What is it about you, your leadership, your character? What is it about you that would compel somebody to follow you?
I would say, Ricky, that one of the things that I have always tried to do with employees that I've had, and the reason that they follow me is because one is that I'm very passionate about what I believe in and what I do in my work. I love what I do. I enjoy it. I guess it goes back to the roots that I had when I grew up, looking at my parents that, they just went to the third grade. And when I asked my mom one time, I was getting her passport, I said, why did you only go to the third grade? She said, because we had to work. And I just can't see somebody pulling a third grade child and putting them to work, but that was the nature of it. But they were very passionate about the opportunity that this country could give you, about what we could do. And I remember my father always telling me, there's nobody that can tell you what you can or cannot do. You're the only one that can tell yourself what you can or cannot do. And I remember them discussing voting and voting rights and paying the poll tax that was there, as a way of keeping minorities from voting. And he emphasized how important it was. So all that to say that I've seen, that with me, I've equated in my mind and what I see that the economic opportunity that we have to be able to make a difference really will make differences in all the other elements, in housing and education or whatever. So the key to succeeding in this country is through economic development. And I think that too long, we people of color were left out of those kind of decisions or those kind of opportunities. So when I've seen that, and I saw how my father, who had his own business, we had tile, linoleum, carpet, and I remember that he would go and get money to buy the materials that he could sell a lot, do a lot more. And I remember one time asking him that, how come he went and borrowed money to fix the roof on the house like 3 times when the roof didn't need fixing? And now I look back, and it was because it was redlining. The banks wouldn't lend money in the neighborhood where we lived, in the houses where we lived. So that was one way he could get money to be able to make his business go. And all those were elements that grew in me, that how I got into this industry was that I was I was doing an internship with the city manager in San Antonio to get my master's degree. And it required writing a thesis. And I saw this Hispanic gentleman that came in and complained to the city council and said, I can't get any contracts because they discriminate against us. And when the city manager gave it to me as a low man on the pole, give me some stuff so I can respond back to the city council, I saw that there were requirements that we weren't completing. And one of those was in the airport. And I wrote my master's thesis in developing a minority business program for the city of San Antonio that went on to be the basis for a $600,000 grant that we received. And that's how they hired me to operate that program. And that's how I started in this business. But from the very beginning, it was always the passion, the drive, the dedication, and the professionalism of trying to make something different and change. And there's several people in the DFW community that right now run programs like the Dallas Independent School District, the City of Fort Worth, several other programs like that started with me and had no knowledge of this industry or this business. But I guess because of the impact that I did with them, they actually stayed with it, and they have in turn become leaders in the community of advocating and trying to create a more equitable business opportunity for people of color in public sector contracting. So I think that those elements are what I think somebody sees and wants to be able to follow and be able to emulate and appreciate of what they've done. And that's where I've seen guys like that have really affected me and impacted me. And those are some of the characteristics that I've seen that I really want to emulate.
Wow. I think for me is I'm a dreamer. I like to dream, and I like to dream high. My journey in this life has been unique with a lot of challenges. It's been unique. It's been unique because many of them have been aviation-related challenges since I was 3 years old. Actually, at the age of 3, my mom migrated from the Dominican Republic to the United States, and I will never forget what I said to my uncle. I said to my uncle, "Uncle, one day I want to drive that big car that's flying up there." So after that, that's how kind of my passion for aviation got started, and I have been facing a lot of challenges. You know, not being able to go through my childhood and living with my mother. My grandmother was the one that had to raise me. Facing discrimination, even in my home country, where they also have their own racial issues as well. They move into the United States, not knowing the language, not knowing exactly what to expect, and then having to face a different, I would say, set of discriminations or lack of certain opportunities only available to certain groups. And just keep on dreaming and keep on saying, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. I remember during my time in college that I went to take my entry exam. And again, I knew like 3 words in English. And they made a mistake. And I was assigned to take college classes right away under my first semester. And that was a system error because I was supposed to take English classes for the first year. And I will never forget that during my first semester, I got D+ and C- in all my classes. And I was a student that was an A student in my home country. And I was never, in my life, I was never so proud of those D+ and C- that for other people, it was horrible. But for me, it was like, you know, I don't know the language. I had to rely on others to translate for me in the middle of the class. Being able to just dream and others seeing that kind of perseverance and me struggling, but kind of standing up and continue pushing and seeing every semester how those C+ turn into B's and A's and so on and so forth. I think that, you know, that really created like that kind of extra layer of dreaming on me. And that's something that I do every day. Whenever I had a chance to mentor somebody, have a conversation with somebody, and people mention, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. I encourage them. I'm like, hey, let's do it. Like, if you ask me, Jose, what is your dream? What do you want to be? I tell folks, I want to be an astronaut. I want to go to space, you know? And I've had people laughing at me, telling me, you will never go to space, you will never do this, you will never do that. Guess what? I'm working in an environment where I see airplanes, you know? Did I get to space? No, but I got somewhere high. So I think dream high for me, it's something that it has allowed me to get to what I am right now.
Right.
So you're both humble individuals, and I know when I asked the question earlier about what would compel people to follow you, you probably wanted to change the question, because I know Mario very well, and I know he's a servant leader, just as somebody commented. So the idea of following him, I know he wanted to change the question, but that wasn't the question I asked. So I thank you for answering the question. But I'm going to test or challenge your humility again one more time. For you, Mario, if you made the decision that you're done, mm-hmm. You've been at this game long enough, you declared victory, and you're done. And we host this huge national celebratory party for you. What do you want people to say about you as a part of your legacy? That's for you. And then for you, Jose, who you still have many, 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 many years to work and to build your legacy. As you're building this legacy, at the end of this, at the end of all your work, what do you want to have accomplished as a legacy? What do you want people to say about Jose as your legacy? Okay, because you're still building it.
I think, Ricky, let me go first. What I would think that people will want to say that that party, one, they would lavish me with a lot of gifts and money, you know, but aside from that, they would say, one, he was a very dedicated, you know, individual, very caring, very supportive, very helpful, very much always trying to reach back and help folks. I know that one thing that was very interesting, I actually left DFW Airport, went to Washington, D.C., and came back to the DFW airport area. I physically live in Fort Worth, Texas right now. Now, I remember I was renewing friendships and going out having lunch with some of the folks that I knew. And obviously, my realm of friends is in the aviation airport industry. And I went and had lunch with a couple of friends of mine that were Hispanics in, you know, Hispanic concessionaires that are currently at DFW Airport right now. And one of the comments that one guy made, you know, I never really looked at it that way, struck a chord. He said, you know, Mario, when you were at DFW Airport, you were so helpful to us, and you single-handedly created more Hispanic millionaires than anybody that I know. My response immediately was, well, I'm glad I created, but I'm not a millionaire yet. So help me achieve, become a member of that club. But my point is that, you know, I've always seen that if we don't help each other, then nobody's going to help us. That's why I have no issues with what the African Americans do or what the Asians do or what they're doing. I'm trying to do the same thing for my community and folks, except that when I put on my work hat, it's not I'm doing this job and I'm representing and I'm only working for Latinos or Hispanics. I'm working for minorities in general, because I've always been a firm believer that as many people as I have helped, there's been twice as many people helping me. And I wouldn't be the success that I am today if I didn't have people that really helped me, guided me, educated me, and really supported me. So I try to do the same thing as I go around the country and meet with different folks and different people. I'll help anybody that wants help. In fact, I always tell folks from a business side, I said, look, I don't charge for questions. So if you have any questions, give me a call. I'll be happy to give you my thoughts, you know, responses to any question you might have. So But I've been blessed that as much as I've helped, I've gotten twice as much back. So those are the kind of things that I would want people to say, that he was caring, he was supportive, he was helpful, he was very intelligent and very much a game changer, very much a game changer that we did. And we did a lot of wonderful things, and we changed the landscape when I was at DFW Airport. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that when I did my master's thesis, I really studied and based it on Atlanta. Atlanta had a very important program. And when I got to DFW Airport, there was, when we did certifications, we were still doing certifications within the airport. We had 2 or more of everything. We had 2 or more cities, 2 or more counties, 2 or more college districts. And I saw that certification was crazy. By the time you finished on 1 year later, you got to start back at the very first one. So I created and brought in, well, actually I brought in, and then with my support, my idea, I created the North Central Texas Regional Certification Agency. That was the model that we promoted to the federal government that really gave rise to the uniform central certification groups. So those are the kind of creativity that I would want people to remember me by, the dedication, the support, and the effort that I would really work that much. Aside from my good looks also, you know.
And the carriage. And carriage is another one, yes.
Yes.
I feel from my end, it's more I want to help set the foundation for the next generation to take it to the next level. Right now, COVID was kind of a reset for what's to come, the economy 2.0. And I want to be able to be one of those that help set the next generation to embrace those opportunities and be able to lead those efforts to succeed. We see how the world is changing, how we live in this TikTok world, and so many things are happening with artificial intelligence, different technologies related to healthcare. We see what's happening in terms of, even conflicts in the world and so forth that you may see as an issue, but it could be a great opportunity for business and so forth. So I want to be the one of those that is able to take a step back, look at the issues, work together with the AMAC community, and take things to the next level, to open more doors for the next generation. There is a lot of work that needs to be done. I mean, this is just the beginning, and I keep on saying that lately. It is just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do. We need to inspire the next generation to go out there and conquer the world. There's a lot of folks, African American, Asians, Latinos, and so forth, that have the potential. We need to be able to give them the tools and set them for success to thrive in the future economy.
Well, I will, as Anthony prepares to take the mic, I will harken back to a point I alluded to earlier in terms of the theme that I'm hearing from both of your remarks. You both are evidence as to why it's the Airport Minority Advisory Council that you have demonstrated through your thoughts and your words that we have far more in common than we have. As a matter of fact, we have very little in difference, right? And that is why we are so linked as a community. It's because we have common struggles, we have common challenges, common aspirations. And because of that, we find ourselves linked as we try to navigate this journey to improve our community and our community at large. And so I want to thank you two so much for your important insight.
Ricky, I just want to add that
yes.
In hearing Jose, I'm really encouraged and I'm really excited that we have a new group like that coming up that really gets it and understands, like I said when I started before. So Jose, I applaud you. I'm very proud of you, and anything I can do to support you and others and out there in the audience, I'll be happy to do. And before I leave, one thing I want to say, saludos para mi gente latina.
All right.
Thank you, Mara. I think, like I said earlier, you guys opened the door to that sense of open arms and willingness to listen to us, to the younger generation. It's something that we don't see in many organizations. So thank you and the rest of AMAC for allowing us to speak up and share our thoughts and needs. And not just share our thoughts and needs, but also embrace us on the change as well.
And Anthony, I say that AMAC has been a big part of my success. I couldn't have been the success that I was at DFW Airport if I didn't have an organization that really advocated and really said a lot of things that I couldn't say because I was part of that organization, part of the airport itself. So it's been a very big, important piece in my success.
Well, I will tell you this. One thing I'm learning about the community, Anthony, is that they don't want to give up the mic.
Ricky, I was trying to jump in. Want to thank you, Mario and Jose, for your inspiring words during this session. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all of our attendees who joined us this month. We really appreciate you joining us. I do want to recognize our AMAC's newest president and CEO, Ebony Winbush, who's in the audience. Thank you. I also want to just remind everyone and invite everyone to join us on November 3rd for Emerging Leaders, our Cocktails and Conversations session led by Jose and his guest hosts as well. And then also, please check out AMAC Builds Careers website. We have applications open for our mentor program, our internship program, and also our fellowship program. So please check us out on the website. Again, thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Great stuff.
Thank you, everyone.
Outstanding.